All set? Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting for the Government Operations Committee for Monday, September 19th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Wirball?
Here.
Besner?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Calamaris?
Here.
Payleitner?
Here.
Bonnegar?
Here.
Bancroft? Lencioni?
Here.
Petrola?
Here.
Okay, thank you. We have one administrative item, video gaming for August 2022. Any questions or comments about that? Okay, moving forward, we have one omnibus vote tonight. Oh, yes, Dave.
Chair, I would like to remove 7A from the omnibus.
Okay, thank you. We're moving 7A from the omnibus vote. Thank you. So with that, can I have a motion to approve one omnibus vote tonight? Motion and a second.
So I'll second.
Moved by Steve, second by Ed.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Wirball?
Yes.
Besner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Calamaris?
Yes.
Payleitner?
Yes.
Bonnegar?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yep.
Petrola?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. Item 5A, Police Department. Recommendation to approve a new D8 liquor license application for Vero Bosi LLC located at 3755 East Main Street in St. Charles. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Slokaitis. So this appeared earlier this evening at the Liquor Control Commission in advance with a 3-0 recommendation. Tara Frost is with us this evening. She can answer questions about this application, or I can, obviously. This is for a performing arts, which is a music, acting, and theater lesson studio. The declassification is already in existence, and we've used it throughout St. Charles a number of times. This location has been in business for about a year or so, and it directly is behind our cannabis dispensary, Zen Leaf, and then next to the Tasty Biscuit. All the paperwork is in order, and like I said, I can answer any questions that you might have.
Questions or comments from the committee?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Rita, seconded by Ryan. Roll call, please.
Wirball?
Yes.
Besner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Calamaris?
Yes.
Payleitner?
Yes.
Bonnegar?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Petrola?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. Number 6A, City Administrator's Office. Discussion of the Active River Project vision from John Rapchak of the River Corridor Foundation. This is for information only. Good evening, Heather.
Thank you. Good evening. I will just be very brief, and I will turn it over to John Rapchak. I know he is here with a number of other members from the River Corridor Foundation. The purpose of the presentation here tonight, and hopefully you've gotten a chance to look at the information contained in your packet, the River Corridor Foundation is interested in taking on one component of the Active River Project. As detailed in your packet, they are looking to do this at their cost and funding, but before they approached that, they wanted to make sure that the City Council was in support of that project before they expended any funds on that. So with that, I will turn it over to John Rapchak.
Good evening, Mr. Rapchak.
Hey, Ron, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Mr. Chairman and Alderman.
Can I have your
name and address?
Yeah, please. Can I have your name and address for the record?
John Rapchak, 914 Ash Street here in St. Charles.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight. You know, it was over 10 years ago that we introduced the concept, along with the city and the Park District and the Forest Preserve, of a way to leverage the Fox River and help economic development, as well as provide recreational activities in the city, et cetera. Some of you may not be familiar with the River Corridor Foundation. We look at ourselves as instigators. We're a not-for-profit organization. There's no paid staff whatsoever. Some of the projects we've done around town is certainly the Bob Leonard Walk. We played an instrumental role in a lot of the public art sculptures, the Windy Motions over here near Salerno's, the If I Could But Fly, the reflections here just outside the door, etc. We just completed this last weekend a very successful fourth annual Fox River Cleanup Day. So we pulled another few hundred pounds of trash out of the Fox River. We were one of, I think, 80 or 90 groups across all the way from Waukesha, Wisconsin, down to Ottawa, Illinois, that coordinated and cleaned up the Fox River. The good news, two good news things, and one kind of not so good, maybe, was that we had over 100 volunteers here in St. Charles alone. And number two was that there was not that much trash in the river compared to previous years. So I guess that's a good thing. But we also had people coming from Naperville, from Chicago, from Rockford, et cetera, that came, and we didn't have as much work for them as we thought we might have. So that's a little bit of an embarrassment. But We'll also, a project we just completed and finalized everything on within the last month or so is we did some extensive renovations in what we call the Langham Corridor. So it's that portion of the east bank of the river along Langham Park. So from Devereaux Drive north up to, I don't know what the next street is, it branches off. We put in a limestone outcropping so kayakers and paddleboarders can launch their craft there without having to stand in mud. We put in 5 benches and I think 7 new trees and a bicycle repair station, and made sure all the benches have ADA compliant concrete pads underneath them so people can park strollers or bicycles, et cetera. It used to all be mud, et cetera. So, and I know the city's long-term plans, and I think you've started construction already on, you know, the new wastewater pumping station over there, which, and there's going to be an element of that which would be washrooms, public washrooms, which would be very nice along the bike trail. So those are the kinds of projects we get involved in. One aspect of River Corridor that most people don't know is that we're also a registered not-for-profit federal contractor. So we can apply for funds directly from the federal government or from the state of Illinois. Department of Transportation, Department of Natural Resources all have requirements that you have to be a registered federal contractor for doing or receiving grants of that type. So what we're proposing is after 10 years, and we haven't made a lot of progress on the active river plan, even though it's was voted in and adopted as part of the city master plan and also the Park District master plan. So it's been there as part of the plan. I know it's been referenced on a number of things like the police station property. You know, the proposals for there had to be compatible with or recognize the possibility, et cetera. And so we decided that maybe we should take the bull by the horns. And what's held it up for a while is that the engineering and design effort, more than just the concept plans that we've had, is a fairly significant piece of change. And you can't go apply for grants until you're quote unquote shovel ready. So you got to have that engineering done, you got to have the drawings, you got to have, you know what the underlying structures are, et cetera. And doing the whole project, the engineering, et cetera, for the whole project, this was 10 years ago, was estimated at $2 million. And, no one's ever been able to find that kind of money. So what we decided to do as River Corridor was let's focus on a small section of it and see if we can't get that done. And so the section we've identified is, and I think you've got a map in the packet that was distributed, is from Illinois Street south to the Piano Factory Bridge, or the pedestrian bridge, whichever you call it. So it's a few hundred yards long. Some of the issues there are that there's a couple of big safety issues. One is at the corner of Illinois and Riverside Drive, at that southwest corner. There's very little room on the sidewalk. If there's more than one bicycle, there's just no place to go. People pile out onto the street. There's a chain link fence there, which is very unattractive, et cetera. And at the exit to or entrance to the Piano Factory Bridge on the east side, you have to make a decision instantaneously because it comes to a T with a very narrow sidewalk and you got to turn right or left or you're in the middle of traffic immediately. Somewhere a number of years ago, I think probably 20 or 30 years ago, somebody decided that to prevent erosion along the east bank of the river, that they would take all the broken concrete from public works projects and pile it up there. So that's what that shoreline is right now. Not very attractive. It has served a purpose, and et cetera, but it's certainly not reflective on the city of St. Charles and the beautiful river that we have. So by focusing on that piece of property, which is city-owned and Park District maintained under a master plan, I think that's right, isn't it, Heather? Anyway, that we proposed that we would first hire or form a committee made up of some representatives from the city, both staff and or aldermen, and also from the Park District. I'm making the same presentation to the Park District in another week, and focus on gathering what we think are the most important elements. Do we need to have water access there? So there need to be a way to step down to the river. Is how the bike path now that is there now is very narrow. Is widening that bike path, critical, or is that something that could wait? is, there's just other elements. I know at one time, there's, I think in your long-range plan, there's some comments about having to redo parts of the Illinois Street Bridge, or at least, look at that. So certainly we would want to take that into accommodation into whatever plans we come up with. But the idea is to come up with that priority list of features and functions that are most important to the community, then take that in River Corridor, would then hire an engineering firm to give us 2 or 3 detailed concept plans with estimated costs of construction. So they would come together, take our input for those elements that we think are most important, and come up with some concept plans. Now, I provided you with 2 different pictures of a couple of ideas. They're not meant as suggestions. They're really just to give you an idea that there's a wide range of possible applications and engineering that could be done along there. One is the precast cantilevered element that some other cities have used that would allow the bike path to be much wider and extend out over the river, not become flooded, etc. I suspect that's pretty expensive to do, but I don't know at this point. Another one is to do on a larger scale what we just did down at Langham Park and what the Park District has done at Pearson. I think you have some limestone outcroppings, I believe, that go down into the water, and just do that on a bigger scale. We think we could do that, especially at the Illinois Street intersection, and there's enough area there that could be accommodated fairly easily. So that might be a lot less expensive, but maybe it doesn't provide all the things that we want it to. So we would then take those 2 or 3 plans, bring those back to you and to the city in general, and get your input. And then once that was done, then hire an engineering firm to do the actual engineering work of design and very detailed construction drawings, etc. Now, I'll be honest with you, we got the money for the first phase, which is to hire an engineering firm for 2 or 3 concept plans. We don't have all the money yet lined up for phase 2. Which is to get all the engineering done and all the surveying, et cetera, that has to be done. But we have a pretty good feel that that money is available to us once we have a concept plan narrowed down. We have some ideas on where we might find that. Then, of course, the big final question is construction funds. Once we have all the engineering done, et cetera, is then we would go out and apply for some grants. There are some grants we've identified that may certainly sound applicable, that might provide enough funding for it. Our hope is that we would not require any city funding and nor any Park District funding. We're not asking for that at all. But we are asking for a trust in that if we go to all this effort, and it's a lot of work applying for grants and walking through everything, that it would be acceptable to the city as well. And you wouldn't, come back, well, I wish it had this feature or that feature, after the fact. So I guess in a nutshell, that's about where we're at this point in time. So we're not asking for funds. We're asking for your blessing. It is city property. When we think we can build something that would be the city would be very, very proud of. And we think it'll be an instigator to maybe do some other sections over the next few years as well.
Thank you. Yeah, questions? Rita?
Any questions?
No,
No, I thought you were.
sorry.
Any questions from the committee? Yes, Steve.
John,
Yeah.
how long would you think, like, that, in your mind, you envision that first piece being?
I think we can have it done by about roughly the first of the year of 2023, get that 2 or 3 concepts done. Part of it depends on the backlog. That there's a couple of engineering firms that we've worked with that we would like to, one of those we would like to work with again. I don't know what their current backlog is, in terms of work. That's certainly a question that we would ask. But certainly by the end of first quarter of 2023, we'd like to have that done. Now, the next phase is dependent, of course, upon us being able to solicit enough funds to do that engineering work, et cetera. And it's kind of like they got to go step by step. You can't do this until you have a plan. You can't do this plan until, So I would hope that we can do that piece of it within, certainly, within 2023. But I'll tell you more once we get out there, with our hats in hands and do whatever.
Well, I think it's great.
Paul?
I applaud you taking this on. I think it's really wise to take a small section at a time, and go ahead and do some exploration. on what's possible. I think that sounds great. I'm gonna be very interested to see what you come up with, because obviously how we're gonna get the money, and, you know, I love the idea of thinking about it, finding a good idea, but, you know, nothing that we're doing, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic, because I'm very concerned about being financially savvy, but you've taken that on. But a lot of times people are like, well, we'll raise the money with the help of the city, you know, so I always am looking to, you know, say, we give you permission to take a look, and we're beholden. I hope you find amazing things, and if there's something that's a great investment, but I definitely am looking for really, really smart.
Yeah, we've been
responsible.
We've been successful at fundraising in the past for certain things. Our Heart of the Fox event, you know.
You've done great work. I just, at no
Yeah.
point I'm going to cede the responsibility to be responsible. I just wanted to say that one thing, although I love it, and I hope you find awesome things to do, and I want to support you in every way that I can.
Good, thank you.
Yes, any questions? Yes, Ron.
So you mentioned, obviously it's before concept, but do you guys have a vision right now of what direction, what it might look like as you go into those conversations?
Well, you know, in your own comprehensive plan, it talks about a cantilever walkway along that section of the river, with no further description or pictures than that. You know, it doesn't go any farther. You know, we'd love to do all of those things, the cantilever thing, as well as get down, have access to the river, et cetera. Whether that's all compatible or not, that's an engineering, you know, thing that's got to be done. But, you know, the hope is that either with or without modifications to the dam, we think that there's a way to go underneath Main Street Bridge with a walkway. So we would, at Illinois Street, we'd be close. We can't, there's no way to go underneath Illinois Street Bridge. It's like 2 feet above the water at normal water levels, let alone high water. But, you know, doing that, and then you open up, then there's another stretch that would be from the Piano Factory Bridge down, you know, down Langham Way a little bit, and all of a sudden you've opened up a north-south bike trail that doesn't, and pedestrian trail that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And right now, I know your own, the new cycle and pedestrian committee, or commission, I guess I should call it, one of the major things they talk about is an obstacle is getting through downtown St. Charles. It's so hard to be over on Riverside Drive. You're out in the street. There's a lot of traffic there. You got some restaurants and bars, and you know, and the Arcada Theater. So if we can get a way around that, you know, and we think this will be a step in the right direction to doing that. It doesn't answer all the questions, but it'll give us a way forward for that.
So do you could do it in smaller chunks. How would this, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but how would a project this potentially impact your ability to do other things down the line?
We would have to make sure that we accommodate that with the idea that there's going to be something else, you know, at both ends of that, because it's kind of in the middle. But, you know, certainly the engineering firm that we hire would have to, you know, lead us to believe that they can tie into the other segments pretty easily.
Okay, and then last one, I'll give the microphone back. You mentioned meeting with Park District.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you get far enough down the tracks, what would the plan be for meeting with residents, particularly in that area?
Certainly before any construction was to happen, you know. I mean, I think that piece of it would probably, and we'd love to have, if there's some local residents that wanted to partake in this initial discussion about, you know, certain requirements and stuff. I don't know how to identify those other than knock on a couple doors. We'd love to have their input on that. We don't want it to be a year-long event of going through every nook and cranny and trying to figure out stuff. But certainly before construction, when we had plans that said, here's what we're going to build, we would certainly go to the neighbors and make sure that, you know, it's compatible with their own vision for their property.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes. All right.
So, John, you said there would be 3 concepts you would come back with?
Well, we're asking for 3 because we think that will fit within our budget.
Okay.
You know, I've talked to both of the engineering firms that are potential candidates for us. I have a rough idea of what getting 2 or 3 concept plans would look like or cost. That includes not only doing some sketches, but also some presentation boards.
Okay.
You know, so that we would have something to bring back to you and the Park District and the community in general, and that they could see what we're envisioning. And then once we select one, and it may be combinations of, you know, we like this element of this plan and this one. but 2 to 3 is about what we can afford. And I think, quite frankly, that'll give us some pretty good options
Okay.
to move forward with.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Rita?
Yeah, John, you know how I feel about it. I'm thrilled that we're getting off the stick on this, you know, inch by inch, right? So more than my blessing for this. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So do you think you have direction from the committee?
Would you like them to go through and give sort of just a thumbs up or down on it, just for your confidence?
Well, that's good.
All right, yeah.
What I really want from you is some names of a couple of people.
And I'll work with the mayor to get someone, now that the city council's in support of it, to get some names for you for that committee.
Yeah, and then we get that organized and get going on that right away, so that would be terrific.
Okay, so I maybe have some direction to go? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments, or anything from the audience? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, thank you. That one, we have 7A. I pulled this off just in case someone has any questions about spending these computers and for the dollar amount. That's why I pulled it off for. I had Dave pull it off.
Sure.
So let me just read the recommendation to approve a resolution authorizing staff to award a contract to Dell Marketing LP for desktop computers for $109,677. Thank you. Do we have any questions or anything?
No, I'm glad you pulled it because I was going to have to abstain. So if it hadn't been pulled, I would have had to pull.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yes, Bill.
Hey, Larry, thanks. I read through some of the information. Is this a 5-year contract, right? Does that include break fix or hardware support through Dell as well, or is this just to procure the hardware?
It's just to procure the hardware, but the hardware does come with a warranty. So the break fix is on the city side, but everything's covered under warranty. So if there's any problems on any of the materials, they're replaced through the warranty program.
Does it include licensing also?
Yes.
Oh, it does.
So yeah, it includes the desktop operating system licensing.
Have you done anything to compare, so I know desktop, did you compare costs against laptops or other types of equipment?
Yeah, we basically, based on the user's needs, so most folks use desktops. We do have a fleet of laptops as well, too. But generally, this laptop here is our standard business laptop, this standard desktop that suits the needs of most of our users.
So this is the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, like all the components that you would need to run a desktop?
Just the computer, not the monitor, not the keyboard,
okay.
Just the computer. The monitors are replaced in about a 7-year replacement because they last a lot longer. We find that 5 years is kind of the sweet spot for desktops. We've gone shorter, we've gone longer. We find that 5 works out really well as far as the age, the amount of time it takes to reach a point where they need to be replaced, and the processing speed doesn't start meeting the needs anymore for our staff. So that's why we're at the 5-year cycle on the desktops. But the peripherals, like as I mentioned, the monitors are at 7 years.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments about this? Seeing none, can I have a motion to second?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Brian, seconded by, Dave. Roll call, please.
Wirball,
Yes.
Besner,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Calamaris,
Yes.
Payleitner,
Abstain?
Bongard,
Yes.
Lencioni, Petrilla,
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. Thank you. 8B, recommendation to authorize the inclusion of the Frank Gorman Memorial Canoe Launch Access Site in the fabulous Fox Water Trail. Good evening.
Good evening. This request came from the Kane County Development Department. Their staff contacted the city about having the Frank Gorman Memorial Canoe Launch included in their application as part of the fabulous Fox Water Trail, which is a proposal being submitted to the National Park Service for designation as a part of the National Water Trail System, which has a goal to increase non-motorized recreation on water bodies. And you'll see from the maps that were included in the packet, there's a number of locations identified in St. Charles. On Park District property, this location's on city property. The Frank Gorman Canoe Launch, if you're not familiar with it, it's a floating metal dock boat structure that's located along the Freedom Trail Riverwalk, adjacent to the old police station building. The structure was installed by the city in 2007 from a grant from IDNR. So staff has requested clarification from Kane County regarding whether there be any process required to remove the canoe launch from this program after it's designated. At this time, there's no plan by the city to modify the dock in any way, but the city will be looking at some potential redevelopment opportunities in that vicinity. There may be some improvements made along that stretch of Riverwalk. But otherwise, staff has no objection to the canoe launch being included in this trail designation, provided it doesn't impact future use, as I stated. So if that is confirmed, then we'll bring forward a resolution to City Council meeting with a positive recommendation this evening. And then once approved, the sign will be posted at this canoe launch indicating its location on this fabulous Fox Trail and identifying its location on the trail. Then I can take any questions.
Questions or comments? Committee?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Rita, seconded by Paul. Any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, come up to the podium, please.
I have a question for the ongoing maintenance of this, especially with the redevelopment in that general area. So who's responsible? Would this complicate that at all?
Yeah, potentially, and that's where we want to get clarification that if it's included within the program, if that requires then any process if it's modified, recognizing that river wall will likely have to be maintained, repaired, or replaced at some point.
You know that the River Corridor Foundation has also been asked to join in the Fabulous Fox initiative or whatever, and we have. While we like the program altogether, we're a little bit cautious about extra layers of bureaucracy being added because it's a federal river trails program, and so would there be additional steps required for things like the walkway we just talked about and repairing that if the Fabulous Fox thing goes through all the way? So I don't know the answers to that questions. Yeah.
Do you know the answer to his question?
I do not, and this is more of an issue of timing to get action, put this on a city council agenda. So we've requested some more information to understand what the impacts would be. And if it in any way would complicate what the city would want to do with the property, we would request to have it excluded.
So you want it, if we approve it in committee, then we will wait until you get more information in, or do you have to have a final approval from the council and then ask questions? That's my...
No, we've asked the questions. We're waiting for a response at this point. So we're looking for a conditional recommendation from the committee.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second.
Can I just ask quick, because John triggered a question. I thought this was just for the canoe launch, right? Or is
Correct.
It for membership?
Specifically for the location of the canoe launch being identified on their map.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, can I roll call, please, Tracy?
Wirball?
Yes.
Bessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Calamaris?
Yes.
Payleitner?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yep.
Petrola?
Yes.
Thank you, that motion does pass. Thank you. Any public comment tonight? Seeing none? Any additional items from the mayor, council, or staff?
I have one thing.
Yes.
Should have said it during city council, but I want to recognize that Mary Cruz from the library board has come here just to take a look at our government process. I want to recognize you and thank you for coming by to take a look at how we do things at City Hall.
Sorry, Paul. New director or
No, she's just a member.
library board?
She
Okay.
just came just for the fun of
Awesome.
more government.
Love it.
I think it needs to be recognized and applauded.
Good.
Although there are other amazing people here who are actually a lot of familiar faces. I'm just glad to see the library board.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that motion does pass, so no additional comments. Seeing none, can I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Paul, seconded
Second.
by Dave. Roll call, please.
Beat you by proximity.
Wirball?
Yes.
Bessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Calamaris?
Yes.
Payleitner?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Petrola?
Yes.
Thank you. We are adjourned for this meeting.